Hey y'all, welcome back to Naturally Becoming. Now, I'm not asking y'all to agree with me, I'm just asking you to see with me. So, today we're going to see a little bit about understanding consciousness, because when I got into manifestation, the biggest thing was I was so heavily identifying myself with my circumstances, and that was bad because it made me feel bad. Like the things I was going through literally made me feel depressed and felt like a failure, like I wasn't good enough. And because I had those judgments and that self image, it literally almost destroyed me. So, on my soul searching journey, I can definitely say that figuring out who I am in relationship to everything outside of me, or even just knowing myself better instead of having a negative self image to have a positive one, I really had to figure out a way to redefine myself, reinvent myself so that I could actually see the good in who I am, or my capacity to change even if I make mistakes and stuff like that. So it really turned into an existential crisis because I had to learn to stop identifying and reacting to circumstances, stop identifying and reacting to my emotions and my thoughts, to be able to separate yourself from that and become the observer, or the person who experiences the thoughts but are not those thoughts and emotions. It can feel tricky at first, but once you see that understanding, it helps you recognize that even though those things are connected to you, there's no separation. You get to have the power in controlling how it affects you. So, meaning if you're afraid of your thoughts and your emotions, you're giving your fear to those things and thinking that you don't control them when you do, because the fact that you can even be afraid of them shows how powerful your belief in those things are, and only you control your beliefs. But it's about your awareness of those things, and you get to decide what type of effect it has on you. So I think what I really had to learn was just, as consciousness, we get to have this experience of existing in life, and our awareness is what fuels that. So that's one thing I realized, that being consciousness, we are that self-awareness. We're that self-awareness that has allowed ourselves to be expressed in this individual way, that we know ourselves as, our name, our personality, our identity. So through these different patterns, we get to express ourselves, and we can reinvent ourselves and decide to no longer have those attitudes, those mindset, that personality, if we choose to. But it's just understanding that everything, even those personalities, your identity, the things you see outside of that, everything that's observable, even the things that's not, like your feelings and your thoughts, they all come from your consciousness. Everything is made out of that. It's basically like how when you break everything down to atom or even smaller, no matter what you look at out here, at a foundation, at its core, is created by, atoms and, cells, and really getting on that lower level. So thinking of our consciousness as the foundation that's within everything, that gives life to everything, now you can understand that you can redirect that energy and, create more positive things in your life, or your ideal life, because you're already doing it. And what I also wanted to say was that in the beginning, we don't have awareness of ourselves. So it can feel like life is, having its way with us, especially for those of us who, before we were conscious of manifestation and then we came into the awareness, we see how we were kind of living life on autopilot, and we were having this life experience it and existing without knowledge that we were doing so. And that's how powerful we are at creating this experience for ourselves. So as soon as we became aware of our lack of awareness, so to speak, we get to see what things truly mean for us. We get to see the true reflections of life and how we played a part in it, and even in our being unconscious, we were still able to, abide by the laws of how life works and how reality works. And it's the same thing with other people. Even though our consciousness is activating them based on our assumptions of how they behave, there's still their own aspect of consciousness that's existing and creating their own individual of reality and their own experiences. So there's nothing wrong with them not being conscious and aware that they manifest, because maybe it wasn't necessary for whatever experiences they're choosing to have. And I'm sorry if I'm getting repetitive with the same words. It's like I can't think of another way to express it, so it might get a little repetitious. But yeah, like I was saying, that's how they go about, like, everyone is you pushed out. Like, everyone is experiencing reflections that are part of themselves based on their belief systems. And everything is made of that self-awareness, that consciousness. And like I just said, everything is conscious and self-aware. Is just dependent upon how they choose to express it. So meaning they might not be conscious that they create their own reality. That might not be even be anything close to their belief system, but they're still on a certain level aware of their choosing that. So you kind of just got to let them do whatever they're doing, not necessarily try to interfere unless they come to you and they're open to change. But I guess at least in our perspective, like for me, I could say once I became self-aware, I also helped those individuals become self-aware through my observation of them. So it's not like you have to sit there and force someone to be like, okay, wake up, start manifesting, do whatever, whatever. Just observing them is enough, and you can be able to coexist with other people who don't share the degree of awareness that you choose to express, which is something I had to learn as well, because you don't want to feel like you're controlling people, or if you're manifesting them to do certain things for you and you kind of feel like, okay, well, they're not even a real person. Well, yeah, they are. It's just you get to decide how you interact with them by changing your assumptions and your feelings towards them. So you don't have to dictate and control how people choose to express themselves. You can just decide, does that fit your ideals and what you would want? And if not, you could just distance yourself from them or manifest a more positive experience, but don't try to control the way that people express themselves. But what I also want to say is, just in terms of who am I, once you start asking that question, like if you get to the breaking point that I had, being really depressed and upset and wanting to change things, it's going to help you start to disassociate with those negative feelings so that you could see the bigger picture. And for me, that led to this self-realization of the fact that I'm not my body, I'm not my thoughts, I'm not my feelings, I'm not my personality, at least that none of them actually, but the personality I was identifying with as someone who's shy and not social, very insecure and feeling weak-minded and stuff like that. That's just one form of expression out of an infinite number of expressions that I could choose to have. So I could literally reinvent myself and be like, whoa, I was never insecure, I'm confident. Like, you can choose those states of mind as easily as your next breath. So you don't have to sit there and fight negative thoughts and feelings. Just let them be what they are. Obviously, it's a discomfort in the sensations of it, but even that is your judgment on those thoughts and feelings as something bad versus something I can choose to select here in any moment, or I could just let it pass without having any reaction to it. Like, if you know that something isn't true about yourself, or you haven't accepted it deeply as true, you would let it roll off your shoulders. That's like if somebody called you ugly. If you know you're not ugly and you don't believe that, it wouldn't even matter. You'd just be like, oh, you're dumb, that's not true, whatever. Like, you wouldn't even give it a second thought. But somebody else who's insecure might sit there and be like, oh, they don't think I look good, I'm not beautiful, because you're so dependent on that identity as someone who doesn't think highly of themselves, doesn't have a good self-image. So you'll take a thought and turn it into something else and spiral, versus someone who has a different relationship with that thought, with those feelings, because they don't accept that about themselves. So it's literally that simple. You can reinvent yourself in any moment. It doesn't matter what you've done. It doesn't matter who you've been around and what they're used to. If they don't accept the change that you make, it doesn't even matter. You might just either have to distance yourself from those people if they don't allow you the space to reinvent yourself, because a lot of times that's like family and friends who have an image of you and they'll keep you in that box, and when you try to do better, they'll hold you back and be like, no, you're the same old, whoever, or you're not really going to change, or you can't do that because this is not how you are. Like, you might have to separate yourself to do that until you feel confident and solid in whatever new personality or persona that you're trying to adapt to. And that ties into my shifting realities video. So if you want to hear a little bit more about that and changing your self-image, you could go watch that video. I might post that before this. So it's really just about observing reality. And if it's something that you don't like, change your assumptions and assume that you're observing something more beneficial. Like, just trust that everything's working out for you. So if you see something that you don't like, okay, this just tells me I don't want to experience this. What do I want to experience? Let me direct my attention and awareness onto that. Let me be conscious of this other thing until I see it reflected in my reality. And don't sit there and wait. Just as soon as you decide something, it's done, it's instantaneous, you're conscious of it, now this is your new truth. So it's up to you to, I don't want to say be disciplined, because it doesn't require effort of any kind to choose something. Once you make a choice, that's it. Like when you go to a restaurant and you make a choice, you don't keep telling the waiter, oh, change this. I don't want this. I want something else. You make a choice. You place your order and you know that they're working on it and you know your food is coming out, and that's it. So the same way you make choices and decisions for certain things, you have to be that direct when it comes to putting your consciousness on whatever personality traits that you want, whatever person that you want to be. So you can choose who you want to be. That's the power of consciousness. We can wear so many outfits, and those outfits being emotions, mindsets, personas, whatever traits and qualities that you want to possess. You have that in your closet, so to speak. So you can go and say, okay, I want to be happy, and that's something you want to have every day. So you make a conscious effort to focus on happiness, even if that's just you affirming, I'm so happy. Why am I so happy? Why am I the happiest person alive? You get to choose whatever state of being you want to be in. You get to choose how long you stay in a certain state, because these states run themselves, they reinforce themselves. So that's how people get stuck in depression and all these other labels that people keep identifying with and self-diagnosing in a lot of cases. But the point is, things like that is when you put your conscious awareness on something and you continue to do so, that eventually you form an identity around that, and then you feel like you're stuck in it because it feels so powerful. But any state is equally powerful. There's nothing stronger, there's nothing weaker. Everything is neutral. So sometimes when you're caught in a negative state, that's part of the illusion, to think that you can't get out of it, to think that that positive mindsets or things like that are not as powerful as negative. We've just been tricked into that illusion, but that's not the truth of it. Everything is even. So just like you were choosing to continue to focus on being in the negative, you can in the next second choose to be focused on a positive. And it just comes down to your belief, if that's like what you're telling yourself is capable of overriding negative things. And it is, but you have to practice it and be consistent and be willing to allow yourself to experience your power. And honestly, the truth is we're already experiencing our power. It's just we weren't conscious of the fact that these expressions are coming from within us. So it's really more just about, now that you're conscious of the fact that you can decide to be anywhere or anyone that you want, you just get to practice that and experience the fulfillment and the satisfaction and the excitement of owning that truth or experiencing that kind of existence where you have more of a hands-on approach to the things that are coming to you in your life. But I think this is where I want to end the video. If you guys liked it and you want to hear more of my thoughts about this, leave a comment. Just give me some suggestions or what things you'd like to hear, and I'll be glad to do it.